Hello and welcome to the Brazilian Report live on YouTube. My name is Gustavo Ribeiro. I'm the editor-in-chief of the Brazilian Report. And this week I'm joined by Ana Ferraz, our finance reporter who speaks from São Paulo. Ana, thanks for being today and welcome. This is your first time here with us on YouTube.
Hello, Gustavo. I'm glad to be here.
So Ana, today we're talking about how the war in Ukraine will affect Brazilian consumers. But before we do, I'd like to ask all of you watching this video to subscribe to the Brazilian Report, which is the journalistic engine behind our YouTube broadcasts, our podcasts, and our special reports. You can go to brazilian.report/subscribe, and plans range from just $3.99 and $19.99 per month. And if you're already a subscriber, you can also help us and help independent journalism by filling up our coffee mugs. Just go to buymeacoffee.com/Brazilian Report. You can become a member of our Buy Me a Coffee community, which would give you a series of perks, including exclusive newsletters or the possibility of asking us questions directly, which could help you make business decisions in Brazil and Latin America, especially in 2022, which is a year of deep uncertainty with a lot of presidential races, such as in Colombia or Brazil, and now with the war in Ukraine and how it will have its ripple effects over the region. Just go to buymeacoffee.com/Brazilian Report. Now, Ana, the war in Ukraine has exacerbated a crisis that has been looming for quite a while, and it's related to oil prices. The liter of gasoline, ethanol, and diesel at the pump has gotten 44% more expensive in the country over just the past 12 months. And meanwhile, salaries have stagnated during the pandemic. So it has really taken a toll on Brazilian consumers. And with Brent prices going way up since Vladimir Putin invaded Ukraine, the expectations is that fuels will get even more expensive. But they have not so far. And why is that?
So it's important to know that the Brazilian oil refining market is a de facto monopoly by Petrobras, the state-controlled oil and gas company. In 2016, Petrobras opted for a pricing policy pegging domestic prices to international fares. That led to rapid price changes in 2016, 2017, until in 2018, truck drivers went on strike to protest rising fuel prices. So since then, the price changes have been less frequent. And under President Jair Bolsonaro, the companies have sought to not change its prices based solely on momentary factors, but rather long-term trends. So it's been over 50 days since Petrobras last changed its prices, and the company said it was studying with the market to make the best decision.
Now, like you said, Petrobras holds a massive influence over fuel prices in Brazil. And I mean, we have explored that on the Brazilian Report, that role it has on the economy kind of exposes a deep contradiction within its corporate structure, right?
Yeah, totally. So what you need to know is that Petrobras is what we call in Brazil a mixed capital company. So it's publicly owned, but the federal government is the majority shareholder with just over 50% shares. And while the administration considers the effects of Petrobras' roles in governmental policies and institutional symbolism, its minority shareholders are far more interested in the company's bottom line.
Which might explain why prices have not gone up for 50 plus days, right? Because I mean, it's hard to argue that high oil prices that we're seeing are just a momentary change that will soon pass.
Exactly. With the Russian invasion of Ukraine, Brent prices topped the $130 mark. Now, with the US and Europe pondering over sanctions over Russian oil, the Brent barrel could get over $185. So, the context, Russia is the world's third largest oil exporter, so any sanctions on its oil have massive ripple effects.
And Anna, the Petrobras pricing policy you just explained a while ago is sort of a sacrosanct principle for markets since it was implemented almost 6 years ago. And there was a lot of taboo about talking of a change on it. I mean, especially in 2018, when pro market candidates were the hottest electoral commodities. I mean, even Jair Bolsonaro, who is not necessarily pro market but presented himself as such, he said that he would respect the pricing policy and even accuse the Workers' Party of trying to change that. But that sort of a taboo about changing the policy, that is no longer the case, right?
Yeah, that has changed a lot. Presidential candidates such as Lula, the frontrunner, and even Ciro Gomes as another center-left figure, they openly defended greater government control over the prices charged by the company. And even on Monday, President Jair Bolsonaro, who will stand for re-election on October, said the price policy was the byproduct of, quote, wrongful legislation that can continue. And after his remarks, Petrobras share prices even crashed 7.1%. He even has promised to find a quick solution to the crisis.
Which would be?
So experts told the president that the best solution would be to create a program subsidizing fuels over the next 3 to 6 months. That would help keep Petrobras pricing policy intact. But another plan seen as a structural solution by the economy ministry depend on Congress passing a bill changing how state taxes and goods and services are calculated. It would put a fixed rate instead of a floating one, which can go up or down depending on the prices. This bill is pending on Senate and should be voted on this week. But the Senate has stalled for weeks now, so another delay could be expected.
And
And
I mean,
sorry?
and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but state taxes on fuels, it's a big part of states' budget. So it is a big contention between what the federal government wants and what state governments may be able to or may be willing to wield.
Yes, exactly. And that's why there are also other proposals floating around that maybe will be implemented. One is to lift federal taxes on diesel, which could reduce prices at the pump by 10 cents on the dollar per liter. But like you said, changing the pricing policy is not a taboo anymore. And the government might even try to use the Petrobras' massive 2021 profits as a justification for freezing prices. And this rationale would be the company is doing so well financially that could it take the heat from frozen prices that it would impose. So the government's assessment is that it's possible to have sort of shareholder collaboration to minimize the effects on the price of the pumps.
But I mean, that's a tall order, especially considering that a lot of shareholders that have a a stake in Petrobras, they're not in Brazil, so they would not have that. Why would they be willing to collaborate to minimizing the effects on Brazilian consumers?
Yes. So just 4 to 5 years ago, Petrobras was the oil company with the biggest debt in the world. And the lion's share on the whole was caused not by corruption, but rather by a policy of frozen prices that was imposed by President Dilma Rousseff administration. And in 2015, before introducing today's international pricing policy, Petrobras saw out of the year with a loss of 35.8 billion reais, the biggest in its history.
Now, these discussions about changing Petrobras' pricing policy, they come as the company is promoting a change on its board of directors, right?
Yes, just on Saturday, the government confirmed 8 appointments to the company's board of directors. Rodolfo Landim, president of Flamengo, Brazil's most popular football club, will be the board's next chairman, provided shareholders, of course, approve his name in April. Landim has decades of experience in the oil business. He worked for Petrobras in the past and even presided over an oil distribution company. But he also faced accusations of fraud. So for Bolsonaro, doing this change, he will come into this job with the mission of at least putting pricing policy changes up to discussion.
Now, is there any solution to this quagmire that does not involve changing Petrobras pricing policy?
So government officials are even talking about potentially declaring a state of calamity if the conflict in Ukraine hasn't ended within around 3 months. If that's the case, the government would have more freedom to increasing spending. Now, that would certainly raise questions in the markets about Brazil's solvency. But we have to understand that there will be no solution that doesn't involve a massive revenue loss, either for the government, Petrobras, or the consumers. And for President Bolsonaro, he's trailing the polls, he desperately needs to create some feel-good factors in order to win re-election. So he'll probably do whatever it takes to hold oil prices down. And according to some statistics agencies, fuel consume about 6% of household spending in Brazil, which makes any oil hike very significant. But the problem is not just that. The problem for Bolsonaro is everything's getting more expensive in Brazil. A new survey by Ipsos with 30 countries, for example, shows that the perception of inflation in Brazil trails only Argentina, Colombia, Turkey, and Russia. So for more than 70% of Brazilians, the cost of living has increased over the past 6 months. So, and also here at the Brazilian Report, we have cross-presidential approval ratings with data about voters' economic expectations. And the result is that presidential approval in Brazil is mostly linked to economic performance.
Yeah, that's why Jair Bolsonaro, despite overseeing one of the world's worst COVID responses, he was able to stay, to get more popular than at the beginning of the pandemic because of cash transfer policies the government had implemented. But what do the polls say so far? I mean, right now we are less than 8 months away from the, probably 7 months away from the election.
So the October elections will be an uphill battle for Bolsonaro. The polls have him well behind former President Lula, but the lead is narrowing for 14 to 8 points over the past few months. That's why it's so important for Bolsonaro to protect Brazilian consumers from oil prices fluctuations. His political future depends on that.
And I mean, of course, this week we're going to have more developments to the story. And of course, Ana, you and I will keep covering this issue and perhaps come back to discuss more. But for the moment, Ana, thank you very much and see you next time.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
And before we go, just one last reminder, please subscribe to the Brazilian Report. It is the journalistic engine behind our YouTube broadcasts, our podcast, and all the content we produce. You go to Brazilian.report/subscribe and you can access all of our content. You can also have a 7-day free trial, no strings attached. We only ask you for your credit card number after you have committed to a subscription plan. So you can go now and take a peek, see if you like your content before subscribing. You can also go to buymeacoffee.com/Brazilian Report and help fill the coffee mugs of our brave journalists. So Ana, once again, thank you very much. And thank everyone for watching. See you next time.